This material is made available to you by or on behalf of the University of Melbourne under Section 113P of the Copyright Act 1968. It may be subject to copyright. For more information, visit the University Copyright website.
Good evening, my name's Alix Hill and I'm your MC for tonight's Jim Kerr Address. I'm the co-convener of the Australia ICOMOS National Scientific Committee on Intangible Cultural Heritage, and I'm also the principal Policy and Communications Consultant at Storey and Ward Lawyers, where I work in Aboriginal cultural heritage and native title rights. To begin this evening's event, I would like to introduce Wurundjeri man Colin Hunter Jr. and ask him to share country with us this evening.
Thank you very much. Good evening and welcome. It is my honour and privilege to be here tonight. My name is Colin Hunter IV. I would like to start off by acknowledging that this evening we are on Wurundjeri country, home of my ancestors and also home to everybody here today. I wish to pay my respects to both elders past, present and emerging, elders from all nations, especially all Aboriginal and Torres Strait Islander community members joining us here tonight. Wurundjeri is a part of the Kulin Nation and of the Wurrung language group. Wurundjeri country extends from the inner city of Melbourne, across to the Great Dividing Range, west to the Werribee River, south to the Mordialloc Creek, and east to Mount Baw. A big thank you to everybody who has helped make this event possible this evening. Wominjeka, welcome, and I hope everybody has a fantastic night ahead. Thank you very much and enjoy the rest of your evening. Thank you.
Thank you, Colin. On behalf of the audience, I would also like to recognise the traditional owners of the land on which we meet this evening, the Wurundjeri Woiwurrung peoples, and pay my respect to their elders, past, present and emerging, and also to the Gunditj Mara people whom we have with us this evening and any other Aboriginal and Torres Strait Islander peoples. I would also like to recognise some distinguished members of our audience this evening, Dr Caitlin Allen, President of Australia ICOMOS, and Heritage Council of Victoria members Anna Foley and Karen Murphy. This event couldn't have happened without the support of our sponsors, the Heritage Council of Victoria, Storey and Ward Lawyers, Conservation Studio, Extent Heritage, GML Heritage and Lovell Chen. This event is presented in partnership with the Australian Centre for Architectural History, Urban and Cultural Heritage, and I would like to recognise Centre co-directors Professor Philip Goad, Professor Hannah Louie and Professor Julie Willis, and thank Theo for his support this evening coordinating the event. Professor Willis, Dean of the Faculty of Architecture, Building and Planning, is going to now provide a few opening remarks.
Thank you, Alex, and thank you, Colin Hunter Jr. for that welcome to country. On behalf of the faculty and ICOMOS, the Australian Centre for Architectural History, Urban and Cultural Heritage, we're delighted to support Australia ICOMOS for tonight's Jim Kerr Address. And I'd like to particularly welcome Troy, Jakobe and Aaron, who'll be speaking tonight, and are representatives of the Gunditj Mirring Traditional Owners Aboriginal Corporation here to the university. For those who don't yet know us, ICOMOS is a research centre of the University of Melbourne, established to promote and undertake high-quality interdisciplinary research in architectural, urban and cultural heritage. ICOMOS actively seeks to partner and collaborate widely to foster engagement, knowledge and interest in our built and natural heritage. And very quickly, I'll alert you to our forthcoming annual symposium titled Toxic Heritage, to be held on the 27th of October. This symposium explores the impact of toxic materials, toxic policies and planning, and remediation of toxic environments across 3 panels with speakers from government, industry, not-for-profits and academia. It includes keynotes Professor Ben Isakhan, exploring international examples of Iraqi and Syrian heritage inventories, and Professor Tracy Ireland on nuclear heritage. For more information and to join our mailing list, please head to the ICOMOS website. And I now hand you back to Alex. Thank you.
Thank you. And thank you all for joining us at this year's Jim Kerr Address. James Semple Jim Kerr was an architectural historian who played an important role in the development of the Borough Charter and wrote the Conservation Plan, the preeminent model for managing change in place of cultural significance. The Jim Kerr Address pays respect to Jim's legacy by perpetuating open inquiry into the understanding of place and the constant review of progress in conservation philosophy and practice. This evening's address marks 10 years since Joan Domicelle presented the inaugural address and established it as a rigorous and informed examination of cultural heritage in a contemporary social context. It is fitting then that tonight's address looks at Indigenous-led heritage management in today's regulatory environment, informed by practices established over 7,000 years ago. Our speakers tonight are involved in the management of the Budj Bim cultural landscape, which was inscribed on UNESCO's World Heritage List in August 2019. The Budj Bim cultural landscape on Gunditj in southwestern Victoria contains one of the world's oldest and most extensive aquaculture systems, created from lava flows and waterways over at least 6,600 years ago. Using volcanic rock, the Gunditj people built channels, weirs and dams to manage water flows and harvest kuyang, we now know as eel, which sustained their society for millennia. This enduring cultural and environmental relationship, grounded in both Gunditj knowledge and archaeological evidence, reflects a deep time connection to country that continues through oral traditions and cultural practice. All of the Budj Bim cultural landscape is Aboriginal owned and or managed and is managed to respect the customary and legal rights and obligations of the Gunditj traditional owners. Tonight we are joined by 3 members of the Gunditj Mirring Traditional Owner Aboriginal Corporation to share insights into the management of Budj Bim since its inception in 2019. Troy Lovett is a Kerr Gunditj Yorta, Jaja Warung and Boandik man who grew up in Haywood and is the Budj Bim World Heritage Executive Officer at Gunditj Mirring. He's passionate about local culture, sport and community and demonstrates this through his work, community involvement, dancing and artwork, most of which take inspiration from the Gunditj landscape as well as the stories and songlines of his ancestors. Troy is also the current chairperson of Windamara, a local Aboriginal community-controlled health organisation. Jakobe Walker is a Gunditj Yorta man, also from Haywood. He became a Budj Bim World Heritage Ranger after finishing school in 2023. Within the ranger role, Jakobe has shown an interest in eel and fish monitoring, waterway quality works and delivering tours for Budj Bim cultural landscape tours. Jakobe is also an emerging artist with an established apparel company, a director on the board of Windamara and footballer with the Haywood Lions. Through his work and involvement in the community, Jakobe was recently named the Glenelg Shire Council's Young Achiever of the Year at their annual Business and Tourism Awards. And finally, Aaron Morgan, a Kerr Gunditj man and a World Heritage Ranger with the Gunditj Mirring Traditional Owners Aboriginal Corporation for the past 6 years. Aaron's work focuses on protecting heritage values, supporting Gunditj-led management and sharing the continuing cultural connection of his community with the wider world. Outside of his work, Aaron also enjoys writing and making music, learning more about his culture and playing football. And so, to present the 2025 Jim Kerr Address, I introduce Troy Lovett, Jakobe Walker and Aaron Morgan.
Thanks, Alex, and thanks to Colin for the welcome to country. Just before we start, I'd like to acknowledge country as well, pay respects to the Wurundjeri people. As Alex mentioned, my name is Troy Lovett. I'm a Gunditj Yorta man from Haywood, and I'll just quickly let the guys introduce themselves as well.
Yeah, I'm Jakobe Walker. Gunditj Yorta, and I'm a World Heritage Ranger.
Yeah, Aaron Morgan, also World Heritage Ranger, Gunditj man.
So just a little bit about Gunditj Mirring. The Gunditj community established Gunditj Mirring in 2005 to continue our connection to Gunditj country and to progress our rights and interest in cultural identity, social justice, native title, cultural heritage, and land justice for our Gunditj Mara country. Through Gunditj Mirring, Gunditj Mara people ensure that our cultural obligations and responsibilities which arise from Gunditj Mara country and under Gunditj Mara law, custom and beliefs are upheld and recognised for the protection and benefit of our traditional lands and waters, and for our respect to our Gunditj Mara ancestors and for our elders. Gunditj Mirring is the registered native title body corporate under the Native Title Act and registered Aboriginal party under the Heritage Act as well. We currently employ around 40 staff and we represent around 400 members who inform all the work that we do. And we've got a photo there from a family camp that we had earlier in the year that all members were able to bring their family onto country and see what was going on work-wise, but connect back to home as well and with each other. This is just an image of our wrap area in the neon green there, down in the corner, and then our neighbours and other wrap groups across Victoria. And you can see our area there, and I've zoomed in on our Budj Bim cultural landscape as well. So this one shows our World Heritage properties, and they stem from the lava flow, which is Budj Bim, also known as Mount Eccles previously, through to Lake Conda and then down south towards the ocean, passing through a property we call Gunditj in the centre there, and then to Tirandara down south a bit further before they go out to the ocean, before the lava flows out to the ocean, sorry. So we've got a few properties along the lava flow that we look after and manage. And there's also others that are on the lava flow that aren't managed by us or aren't owned by us, but still just as important. So a bit about the ownership and management. The Budj Bim National Park is co-managed between the state government through Parks Victoria and Gunditj Mirring as well. And we've got an agreement with the government through the Budj Bim Council. Then we've got our Gunditj Mirring owned properties, Budj Bim IPA, Lake Conda Mission, the central component I mentioned, Gunditj, and then the southern component, the Tirandara IPA, is managed by Windamara, and we've got a bit of Budj Bim protected area there as well. So a bit about our World Heritage journey. We've got, back in 1989, World Heritage inscription was first proposed for the Lake Conda area. 2002, the Lake Conda Sustainable Development Plan and Program identified World Heritage listing as an objective. That program actually implemented a weir being put in at Lake Conda as well. Back in the 1850s, Lake Conda itself was drained for agriculture, taking all the water out of the area. So in 2010, we were able to put a weir back in at Lake Conda, which reflooded the lake, bringing back that life and that culture back to life as well. And then a lot of research and lobbying went on for a few years. And then 2017, we were tentatively listed. And then 2019, we were inscribed. We've just got a photo there from the event with the chairperson announcing us onto the listing. I'll hand over to Aaron.
So yeah, I was lucky enough to go over to the decision in 2019 in Baku, Azerbaijan, and it was just, it was pretty cool just learning all the like UNESCO and all the different languages and that they sort of use to explain cultural landscapes and that. And yeah, it's just a good experience, and I was very pleased to go. But yeah, a nominated site must be of outstanding universal value, or OUV. It's got to meet at least 1 out of 10 criteria, and I think we met 2, so it's criteria 3. Thank you. So yeah, criteria 3 was very unique or at least exceptional testimony to cultural tradition or civilization which is living or has which disappeared. Yeah, so we got the eel traps and aquaculture systems. As mentioned before, dated to about 6,600 years. Sorry. So yeah, that's that fits that criteria very well. The other criteria is criteria 5. So outstanding example of traditional human settlement. The Gunditj Mara, we weren't nomadic in that, and I suppose we have the evidence that of having permanent houses, through the landscape, on the lava flow. So yeah, that speaks to that too. So yeah, we're lucky enough to fit 2 criteria when going for this World Heritage push. Yes.
Yeah, an example of that history that was found was the Muldoon's aquaculture system, which is at the southern end of Tayrak or Lake Condah, and was carbon dated to 6,600 years old. Evidence of continued use from that time. And as I mentioned, the draining of the lake meant this one wasn't used anymore in modern times. You can see how big the trees are around the trap there, pretty established trees, over 100 years old. So that's due to that water not being able to get to that area and not flooding anymore. And yeah, we'll speak a little bit more about this Muldoon's aquaculture system and that trap system a bit later on in relation to wildfire. A little bit about the infrastructure around Lake Condah and Tayrak. With the Budj Bim master plan that was developed in 2014, we received a great deal of funding to build some infrastructure and help with the visitor experience out at Lake Condah. And that included Lake Surprise at Budj Bim National Park, Tayrak Bridge Boardwalk in Interp Centre and the Aquaculture Centre, the Gunditj IPA, and then Tirundara IPA, Tirundara Township, and also highway signage, which is pretty important to let people know where to find all this stuff. A bit more infrastructure there on the landscape. Up the top on the left, we've got Tirundara IPA with a boardwalk over Darlets Creek or Kalara. In the middle there, we've got a seasonal calendar, which speaks to Gunditj Mara indicators on when the seasons change and what happens in those seasons. That one's at Gunditj, and then a lookout at Budj Bim itself. And then continuing on from this infrastructure, stage 2, which is in the plans now and ready to be put in along Tayrak, will include an amphitheatre, visual operations building, so more room for staff, yarning circle. You can see the rest up there listed. It's going to be really great, really amp up that visitor experience and also help us practically with more staff space as well. And I'll hand it over to Aaron.
I'm pretty sure this is... So we got our World Heritage status in July 2019, and then in December 2019 we were hit by a wildfire as part of the fires that were going all over the eastern side of the country around that time. But yeah, lightning struck, and then it took out 8,000 hectares over 2 weeks. And I think the Budj Bim National Park extent is about 9,000 hectares, so pretty much burnt the whole thing. So that was our first little crisis while we had World Heritage. So yeah, you can see the footprint from the 2019-2020. It started in like late December and went through, a couple of weeks into January. Oh yeah, you see that?
You see the cursor?
Oh yeah, there's that little blue bit, that's the lake there. So pretty much all around it, was affected by the 2019 bushfires. Very hot days, like 40 degree days. And dry lightning across the landscape. It was just, recipe for disaster. Shit. But yeah, so after the fires, you can see a couple of workers there walking through, making sure, doing a bit of cultural heritage checks. But we were able to rediscover, I suppose, some of our, cultural heritage that might have been unseen by lots of the mob for many years. So you can see like all that bracken in that green spot there on the photos. So it would have been just the whole landscape just covered like that. And these channels are, built into the bedrock. So they pretty much make it very hard to see, but lucky enough, after the fires, we wiped all that out and we were able to get a LiDAR scan over the landscape, and that was very beneficial for us, into rediscovering more and more of our, of our cultural heritage, But yeah. Yeah. Reading from the wrong notes, sorry. But yeah. We use LiDAR technology. So yeah, we mapped it down and we were able to get like all the data sets back, and pretty much just go through country, on your computer, and just see if you can find sites and that. But recent efforts, we've been developing like AI to sort of, I suppose, predict where, sites might be. And it's just up to the rangers and that, just ground truth, so head out on site and see how, accurate, this AI is. But yeah, it's pretty good. We got about, 7,000 sort of hits that we got to sort of filter through. But yeah.
Do you want me to talk about this one?
Yes, please.
So this was one of the positive outcomes from those 2019 fires. You can see the coloured lines to the side of Lake Condah there. They're in the National Park. And they were tracks that were upgraded after the 2019-2020 fires. So they were widened and more material put down that was used as a fire break. And then back burning as well in areas that were pretty thick as well. And then we also established these Budj Bim cultural landscape emergency management principles. And pretty much they said that due to the type of heritage that we've got, and it's all stones and it's on the ground, in an emergency situation, we can't have dozers and lines being dug in on our country. It'll damage that culture. So we've got this agreement signed off with the CFA and Forest Fire Management Victoria that says our inputs and advice is essential when there's an emergency, avoiding the use of earth-moving machinery, and culturally sensitive fire control strategies. So, a lot of water and helicopter drops were used in our most recent wildfire, which got a bit of info on coming up as well. But that was a testament to these principles, and it's the first of that kind in the state, so it was pretty important. I'll hand it over to Cobes.
Yeah, so earlier this year, we're trying to catch a break from the Grampian, assisting in the Grampians fires with the rock art protection stuff up there. We had a fire of our own start up, I think it was March 15th. But yeah, so that's an aerial shoot of the fire. It started in sort of the same area as the 2019-2020 fires, and it only burnt 2,200 hectares this time. The reason for that was because of those trucks we upgraded are there. So you can see that's the fire footprint. So you've got the footprint with the lines through it. That's this year's fire, and then just the dark grey, that's the 2019 fire. And you can see this year's fire, we were able to keep the fire within that track because we were able to use it as a fire break. So, you know, with our partnership with DECA, we were able to, you know, develop this and get the funding for it. So, and that obviously led, you know, those dry conditions, you know, 2025 drought. We were talking about the installation of the weir in 2010. We had a water monitoring device put in sort of the end of 2019. You can see the water levels of the lake since. And then obviously this year, or late last year, we actually ceased to flow over the weir, the lake. So, you know, the drought did happen. It's there, the evidence is there. But yeah, so sort of how do we monitor that and all the fish stuff as well, all the fish and the kooyang in the system. So yeah, that leads into our ongoing threats. We've got our native species that we protect and enhance, but then we've got our invasive species, so you know, things like pigs, deer, rabbits and foxes. You know, they're throughout all our properties. In our water systems especially, we've got invasive species, tench, redfin, mosquito fish, which we only discovered last year, so that's why we continuously, you know, monitor, because there's new species being introduced into our system, you know, every year. Some of the things we use, you know, is eDNA, just catching them, electrofishing for pest removal, and then obviously, yeah, trapping pigs with our invasive species team that we have at Gunditj Mirring as well. Them setting up a pig trap. Yeah, so a bit of the fish monitoring stuff that I do. Last year, obviously the kooyang is a big part of our. It was able to sustain the ancestors for, you know, thousands of years, and that's, you know, that kooyang is a real big part of our universal value. So we decided to do an eel population estimate in Lake Conda. So we made sure the system was closed from the Darts Creek where they come and migrate from. So they migrate out to the sea, to New Caledonia, Vanuatu, up the Coral Sea. So we ran about a 5-week program, and we set about 30 nets around Lake Conda. And the first week was just tagging them, and then we did a mark recapture survey. So this was done in we worked with ARI to do this, the Arthur Rylah Institute. So in the end, they estimated there's about 3,965 short fin deals in Lake Conda. So we're aiming to do that again next month to see how much they vary, especially with the drought conditions that we just went through. Because pretty much at the start of the year, we only had the drain. There was no water in the lake at all. So you can see the drain running straight through the lake in that picture. Did you want to talk on this?
So yeah, this is just the house surveying project we did with the help of AI. So yeah, AI will predict, you know, where these house sites are. And you can see on the photo to the left, that's pretty much what our house sites are, you know, are left to these days. So yeah, in the landscape, you know, volcanic landscape is very, you know, lots of the resourceful volcanic rock. as you can see there. So that was our foundations for the houses or huts that we built. So yeah, there's about 120 recorded just at Lake Honda, I'm pretty sure. But there's plenty more unrecorded. As I think I mentioned before, there's about 7,000 sort of hits from the AI that we got to sort of filter through. And because it's volcanic landscape, there's lots of things that might not be it, but we go check it anyway, and it even gives you like a confidence level of what it's going to be, or what it thinks it's going to be, before we sort of document them. And you've got the DGPS there to get to really get it centimetre perfect. Because all the older surveys sort of probably just out by a bit, and we've got so much house sites that we've got to document. We make sure we get it pinpoint. How many out of that 7,000? Yeah, out of that 7,000, we've been doing that project for about 6 months now. You got about 400 done, I think. So yeah, 400 walked over and either checked yes or no. But yeah, so it's going to be a long process. But yeah, it's going to be worth it, because we document more of our cultural heritage for future generations to safeguard.
Budj Bim Rangers work out of Windamara, so separate organisation, but like I said, they manage the Tirrandara IPA property. They also help us out with other projects on the other properties as well. So you can see them down the bottom there, helping with the eel surveys. That's us together doing a burn out at Tirrandara. They also do other things like seed collection and any surveys and stuff that we're doing in the waterways. So we really work together with them. And that's it. Thank you.
Thank you. Now, we're going to sit down and do some questions. Now, when you registered, you had the opportunity to submit a question, which you probably didn't know in advance, and have some more now, but we did get some. So, this is an extraordinary site. What has been the most significant change that you have seen happen since the World Heritage listing? And I mean, there are many, so.
I'll start off. I'm the newest on the team here. I only started my role about 5 months ago. So from the outside looking in, the biggest change I saw was that recognition. We always knew it was a special place, and we had a lot of special sites and a big connection to country out there. But to have that recognition of how special it is, to be recognised internationally was really special. I remember watching the live stream of the nomination. I was actually doing a pickup at Melbourne Airport, so I was in the car park watching it on YouTube. But yeah, really exciting to see the guys that were over there as well be a part of it. That was awesome.
Thank you, Siri. I suppose the most significant changes I have seen is, just along what Troy said, is still the same. We've got more people sort of noticing the place, coming out, visiting. But yeah, it's our home, and it's on the map now pretty much. So getting lots of tourists coming through, wanting to see what it's all about, and we got plenty of people happy to go show them around.
Yeah, I'll probably say the same. When we were enlisted, I was only in year 8, and I watched it. at Windamara with the community on the live stream. But yeah, you know, when it was announced, you know, it was a big, you know, sense of pride in the community, and you were able to see the change, especially in tourism. That was a big thing. You know, I never thought growing up I would be a tour guide. So yeah, that's probably one of the biggest things.
Probably one other that I didn't mention was that infrastructure we showed, and along with that's access to country, so making it easier to get out to our sites. Aaron mentioned the stone hut survey stuff is a long process because of the terrain and how difficult the country is to get around. But some of this infrastructure and funding to upgrade tracks and things like that and access to sites is yeah, a real benefit, not for just our work, but for our mob to go out there and connect with it as well.
Speaking of the stone huts, I remember that really forced a lot of people to reconsider the way people were using the landscape at that point, and that there were these houses there, and they're a very important part of the landscape, and also it's very interesting for, you know, the tourism market as well. What are the main issues and concerns that you have in managing those sites?
Well, I suppose with the house sites and the fish traps, they're managed the same just because, you know, they're built out of the same thing. But yeah, main sort of suppose threat would be what's it called? Feral animals. You know, within the area. At the moment, feral pigs and deer are pretty, you know, prevalent on the landscape, which is unfortunate. Any sort of hoofed animal, you know, ungulate would, you know, is going to cause danger to, you know, if they're trampling over the you know, say house sites or fish traps. Same with, I suppose, cows too, neighbouring farms and, you know, wandering stock. That's just as, you know, they do just as much damage as a feral animal sometimes. But I suppose, yeah, it's just, it's just trying to find a way to keep, you know, keep the country, you know, real healthy and strong. You know, enhance it. Yeah, pretty much. So yeah, we want to try eliminate all them threats and risks, you know, as we go along.
Yeah, and these guys in their work as rangers will do monitoring and keep an eye on those sites, but it's not easy to keep on top of it, being such a big area. And pretty much all of our country that we manage is surrounded by farms, so it only takes one hole in a fence for some cows to get in the wrong place or sheep. So there's other ways we try and manage that with good relationships with our neighbours, good programs that bring them in, and they share a sense of pride and responsibility as well. But then you'll always get those couple that don't come on board, won't pick up the phone to you, or yeah, not really cooperative. So it's just about managing those relationships and, yeah, as best we can.
We touched on the bushfires in 2019 and the huge amount of damage and clearing that it did that enabled you to sort of look at country again, ways that you mightn't have for a while. There are just two sort of parts to that. How do you manage a site that, strangely, after all this time, is still constantly evolving? And what impact did burnt trees have on disrupting any of the stone forms in the ground at the time?
I think in terms of managing it, we're always evolving as well. We're, like I said, we've got about 40 staff, but go back, say, 5 or 10 years ago, I think it was 20, and then it dropped down by about half again in another 10 years before that. So we're always upskilling staff as well, and new methods to look after country and ranger exchanges with other mobs. So you're always looking for ways to evolve with things that evolve around us. In terms of the fire, we know that because our heritage is mostly stones, we've sort of got a sense of easement with the fire coming through, that it's not going to destroy our sites. But things like trees, if there's a tree that's established near a channel and it falls, those root systems will uproot, and that causes the damage. So tree monitoring and stuff is a big one. A big one for other mobs is obviously scarred trees and culturally modified trees, which we don't have a lot of on our lava flow, but in other parts of our country we do. So they're a big one to look out for around fire time. But yeah, because of a lot of our heritage is on the ground and in stones, the fire sort of is more of a benefit for us, as long as it's not a danger to people and property and things like that. So yeah, I think that sort of puts us at ease a little bit.
Jakobe, just thinking about the fish and the invasive species, and we've just talked briefly about the impact that hooved animals have on the stone huts. How do you deal with the water-based invasive species? The fish that yeah.
Yeah, so the invasive species in the water. So, there's invasive fish and things like that. It's going to be a never-ending battle to get rid of them. But what we do is the electrofishing. So we're actually zapping the fish, and they're coming up stunned, and we're just scooping them out. In Lake Conda, I think last year we removed about 2 whole crates of just tench, which are invasive fish, sort of like a carp, and they affect the water quality. So, the water quality for the fish, that's the main thing as well. Monitoring that stuff. So we had about 3 water monitoring systems put in throughout our system early this year. So that will give us an idea what the levels are, around the fire time, and going ahead in the future. So, yeah.
Regarding water quality generally and the impact that the drought had on the water levels, how are you managing the site in an ongoing sort of sustainable way, knowing that water is such a resource issue?
I think that goes back to that good neighbour, that good neighbour things we have in place. With the sustainable redevelopment project, I think in that it talks about having a good relationship with our neighbours. So not taking too much water, enough. You block up one part of the system, it affects the whole system downstream. So having them good relationships throughout the whole system, and monitoring it, because they want the same goal as well. So for it to be good. Cattle, that's a big problem. Them tramping on the edges of the system, and what do we find? All the cow crap in the water, and that affects the system as well, and the quality of the water. So, working with our local agencies, water agencies, to get these things away from the creek, and away from our systems as well. So that's the main thing we try to do.
Yeah. And now, we've sort of looked at a very long history and what's happened more recently. Where do each of you think Budj Bim's going to be in, say, 20 years? Or what's your vision for it? Personally.
I think for me, seeing our mob out there working and thriving and making a living off their culture, and something that means so much to them. We already have so much family and stuff out there now, doing tours, and even down to things like making the coffee and things like that. We've got our mob in there in those positions. So to see that thrive and grow even more is probably what I see. Yeah.
Yeah, I think just the same. Just always be growing, We're still learning on our World Heritage journey. and I'm pretty sure in 20 years' time we'll still be learning. So,
Yeah, I'd say the same. Upskilling everyone. A lot of my cousins and that, upskilling all of them to get into these big mainframe jobs, and make an economy out of it, sort of. I guess, our own sort of Gunditj enterprise sort of thing. So, yeah.
Probably one I forgot as well was more access to country. You've seen on that map of the lava flow, we've got a few pockets along the lava flow, but ultimately I'd love to see us owning all of the lava flow, because those pockets are farms and stuff as well where we can't control what happens to the stuff on there. So yeah, from the start to the finish will be pretty cool.
I think that's a vision we would all like to see become realised. Thank you very much to our speakers this evening. A round of applause.
Now, I'd like to invite Caitlin Allen, President of Australia ICOMOS, to present the speakers with a token of our appreciation for their time this evening.
Thank you. I do get the very happy task of saying some thank yous at the end of this fantastic evening. I was really, really pleased to be able to travel here from Camaragal and Gadigal country up in Sydney, beautiful shores of Sydney Harbour where I live and work, to come down to Melbourne and to see ICOMOS friends and colleagues, old and new. And thank you for the wonderful welcome to country. I especially appreciate that as a traveller to different places, to be welcomed in that way and acknowledge country here and elders past and present. So as I said, it's my happy duty to give some thanks. I think that Jim would have particularly engaged with tonight's address. I was really lucky to know Jim towards the end of his career and early on in my own, and he was a very generous sharer of his deep wisdom and knowledge and experience. He had a beautiful, elegant way of really distilling what was important about a place. And he was also meticulous and careful and generous in handing his knowledge down to future generations of heritage practitioners. And as I said, I was very lucky to directly benefit from that wisdom from Jim's mouth. And even today when I write a conservation plan, I can hear Jim in my head telling me to keep it simple and to focus on what's really important. I think that we can see that while Budj Bim is obviously a World Heritage Place, it's also a home, and primarily of importance to the people who live there. And I think you can see those principles that were so important to Jim alive and well in the way that the traditional owners are taking care of country. So I don't want to keep you too much longer, but to say thank you so much to Troy, Jakobe and Aaron for coming all the way across from Budj Bim to join us tonight and share your wisdom and knowledge and experiences. Michelle has some gifts for you to say thank you very much for coming to join us. Also, thank you so much to Alix. We have a little gift for you as well to say thank you for being a wonderful MC and keeping us all running to time tonight and running the panel. And finally, I very often say that Australia ICOMOS, and ICOMOS in general, in fact, is a work of collaboration, and we cannot run anything without the wonderful volunteers, the time that our members give. It is entirely an organisation that runs on volunteer labour. So for tonight's organisation, we really need to thank our Victorian ICOMOS reps, who are also members of our executive committee, Felicity's behind me, hello, and Michelle. Thank you so much for organising that. Thank you very much to our hosts, ICOMOS and the University of Melbourne. We can't operate without the support of our wonderful friends and partners either. And finally, because we happen to be in Melbourne, which is where our secretariat is based, I'm going to embarrass Rebecca Davies a lot because she's very shy and retiring, but she is our secretariat officer. and nothing that we do is possible without her. And I just want everybody to give her an amazing round of applause. You might know her, you might not, but she's sitting in the front row. Sorry, Rebecca, but we can't run the organisation without all of the work that you do for us. Thank you once again for our wonderful speakers, and thank you to all of you, our audience, for coming and joining us tonight. I think we have about 100 people. Is that right, Michelle? Which is a really great turnout. So thank you for coming to watch, and enjoy the rest of your evening. Thank you.
Now, before we all go, one final plug for something. This is for our national conference in Ballarat. Abstracts and early bird closing soon, so get in on do that. We'll be talking about the Victorian goldfields, which have been added to the World Heritage Tentative List earlier this year. And everyone who's interested really is invited. It's bringing together practitioners, researchers, educators and community voices to discuss heritage and the contested nature of heritage. And look, I mean, it's a great event. So if you're interested enough to be here tonight, I would highly recommend it to you. That's it. Thank you again for your attendance this evening, and hopefully we'll see you in Ballarat in November. Good night.